Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Moody Reader podcast. This is a podcast where we talk all about books and the moods I feel whilst reading them. And, we talk about how I really just can't control which book is going to catch my eye or catch my mood. And today we have a book review for a book that I did not think was going to sway me. I thought I was going to, because I did pick up this book before with the audio, and I wasn't in the right mood, of course, so it didn't do anything for me, and so I DNF'd, but the internet swayed me. The internet was like, yo, this book is really good, it's entertaining, it's fast-paced, you need to read it. And so I said, what the heck, why not? So, hello, after that long intro, my name is Ashley Hanna, and I am the host of this podcast, and it is a little after hours tonight, because busy day. busy day, and, when you have some shows you gotta do, shows, I say that like I'm like in demand. I have one show that I'm doing this coming week, and it should be a fun one. I'm really excited for it, and it's going to be a couple of fun pieces. It's like a mixed rep kind of a thing. And yeah, so I have that going on, multiplied with teaching and dancing. And, it's September, October time frame. So you know what that means for all you ballet dancers out there. Butt cracker. Or as it's more commonly known, nutcracker. So those things are going to get into the swing, and that means tired Ashley Hanna, but it's a good tired. Because I love nutcracker, you guys. It's so fun. Like the music. I didn't get to do a nutcracker for about, a good 2 years, maybe 3. So this is really bringing joy to myself, my spirit, because it just is not Christmas time without a nutcracker. So I say all that to say I'm recording a little later tonight because that's when I have time to, and I have a glass of red wine with me. So if you'd like to as well, if you're listening to this not in the morning hours, go ahead, pick up your glass of wine, of course, if you are of age. Duh. And if not, grab yourself a cup of coffee, a glass of water, stay hydrated, and let's, talk about a book, shall we? So, the book we're talking about today, because I am a woman of my word, and last week I said we were going to talk more in depth about Red Rising by Pierce Brown, which I gave maybe 4.5 out of 5 stars, because it was just that good, you guys. It was like Hunger Games, but for the grown people, if you know what I mean. And I just really, really enjoyed it. So we're going to talk all about that book. So stick around if you'd like to listen. There will be a non-spoiler section and a spoiler section where we can talk all about the things we need to talk about, because we must. So, buckle up, because here we go. All right, so I feel like I need to give a little synopsis. So let's go with what Goodreads has to say, shall we? We shall. Darrow is a Red, a member of the lowest caste in the color-coded society of the future. Like his fellow Reds, he works all day, believing that he and his people are making the surface of Mars livable for future generations. Yet he spends his life willingly, knowing that his blood and sweat will one day result in a better world for his children. But Darrow and his kind have been betrayed. Soon he discovers that humanity already reached the surface generations ago. Vast cities and sprawling parks spread across the planet. Darrow, and Reds like him, are nothing more than slaves to a decadent ruling class. Inspired by a longing for justice, and driven by the memory of lost love, Darrow sacrifices everything to infiltrate the legendary Institute, a proving ground for the dominant gold caste, where the next generation of humanity's overlords struggle for power. He will be forced to compete for his life and the very future of civilization against the best and most brutal of society's ruling class. There, he will stop at nothing to bring down his enemies. even if it means he has to become one of them to do so. Love that synopsis. Although if I had read the synopsis off of Goodreads, which I did not do prior to reading this novel, I think I would have been even more jazzed about it. Yeah, I didn't know any about that. I only knew that he was the working class and he was trying to terraform, I guess, mine Mars to make it habitable. That's all I knew. And what is in this little non-spoiler synopsis? Blah, blah, blah. Spends blah, blah, blah. But Darrow's kind of a trip that says blah, blah, blah. Okay. We'll save that for the non-spoilers. Or we'll save that for the spoiler section. So I did not know a majority of those things. I didn't know there was going to be an institute. I didn't know, I mean, obviously you see that it's going to be kind of Hunger Games-esque / Game of Thrones, so you can assume some things. But when we got down to the nitty-gritty, I was shooketh to my core by some of the things that happen in this book. It was so raw and gritty and what's the word? Violent at times, of course. Like you think Hunger Games, you think there's going to be some violence, of course. But this novel was fantastic. It kept me reading. And I actually did a kind of dual read where I managed to rent the audiobook and I had the physical copy. So I was listening to the wonderful Irish lilting tones of the narrator. I think it's an Irish accent. If I'm wrong, sue me. But I listened to the narrator and how he told the story. It was just amazing. That's what I gotta say about that. Also, on a tangent, this book reminds me, like, and you have to have watched these specific people to have this thought. This book just reminds me of Tashopolis or Tashopolis, Natasha. She had a YouTube, I think she still has a YouTube channel, but she does more fashion-y stuff, I believe. I don't know. I haven't kept up with her. But she had a YouTube channel that was semi-devoted to books. She was like a twihard, which, you know, I am also a twihard. But she had a YouTube channel talking about books in general. And one of her loves was Red Rising and the trilogy, but mostly because, and if you look on the back of your book, if you have a copy of Red Rising, Pierce Brown is an attractive man. And so that was always the joke about her, like that she had this major crush on Pierce Brown, who was married, but like it never went farther than that. It was always very, very peachy. But it just reminded me of that, and I was like, that's a different time, a better time, a pure time. But yeah. So let's see. Any other non-spoilery thoughts? Fast-paced, entertaining. The cast system was interesting. The world building. I felt like I was right there on Mars with our main character, Darrow. I loved it. I really enjoyed Pierce Brown's writing style. I was never confused, and he has some very nice prose in there, not overly flowery, but also not too dry. So that was very, very pleasing to my eyes and my ears as well. I wish I had been annotating, even like with just my sticky tabs, because I feel like there were a lot of things in there that really resonated and hit very hard. And I feel like there's a lot of social commentary as well. So I really do think I need to reread this book soon-ish. Maybe not like, right this second, but I feel like I need to dive in again. And maybe I need to read it again before I read the sequel because, like I said last week, I picked up the sequel for my birthday and I feel like I need to dive in. But I'm hoping that I still remember all the characters because it's been a hot minute since I actually read this book. I think I read this book on, let's see, when did I finish this book? I finished this book, it must have been in August. Am I correct? We'll see. No, I finished it September. I can count it as part of my September wrap-up. Lovely. Yeah, I finished the one in September. It took me about a week to read it just because I was in a slump. And that's the other thing. I was in a slump while I was reading this book. You guys, pick it up. Pick it up so you can talk all about it with me and so you can listen to the spoilery review. So if you don't like spoilers, head out. I'll be missing you. Okay, so like I said, the setting. Mars is a wonderful setting. This did with Mars what I wanted in The Martian. Mostly because there were more people in this story, and it's not just a lone person trying to traverse the barren landscape of Mars. But I just really enjoyed the setting we were in. Pierce Brown paints a wonderful picture, and I do love a story where there's very little gravity on Mars. I think that there's not as much gravity on Mars. Don't quote me because, I didn't go to college. But yes, so the setting, the world building, and the audio. The audiobook is A1 steak sauce. Highly recommend that one. Okay, so let's talk about some characters. Mainly our character, Darrow, and his beloved wife, Io. Oh, they were so beautiful. So we start off in this story with Darrow, who is working his hardest at being this like can-do miner who is really trying to do his best so that, because there's I want to say fraternities, but no, they're just jobs, not jobs, like companies, let's liken them to companies. And in each company, there is a name. So there's like the Lambda group, the Gamma group, and so on and so forth. So with the Greek alphabet. And in each group, you have a bunch of people in your team, and you are trying to mine the most and get the most of whatever they're trying to mine for. Like I said, the details, the minutia escapes me. But if you do manage to do this, then you get the golden laurel. And if you get that, you get more supplies for your hometown. No, your community. Yeah, your community. And you really want this because then all of the children will eat better, your wives will eat better, you'll have clothes, you'll have this, that, and the other, and you'll just live a better life for about a month. And so in the beginning of the story, Darrow is, he is dead set on getting this laurel. And then he ends up going the extra mile. He gets a little bit injured doing so, but he gets it. And he's like, I've secured it for our family. And then they go off to this, I don't know, what would you call it? It's a ceremony. Yes, it's like a ceremony for all of these communities to go, okay, who's going to get the laurel this week? And everyone knows that it's going to be Darrow and his team. But what do you know? They give it to the people that always win it because the system is, you guessed it, rigged. And so, of course, this makes Darrow angry, and this sets him off, and he goes and talks about it with his wife, Io, and these people are young. They're like 15, 16 years old, but the life of a miner on Mars is a short one, so you have to marry young. Have all the kids you can before you kind of kick the bucket with this dangerous job. So he is in love with his wife, and he talks to her about this, and she basically has certain views where she is more of a revolutionary. She's more of a rebel. And he is the type that would be like, okay, let's just live a good life. Let's not rock the boat. And of course, like I said, she does not believe in living that way. And so as they're doing this, she takes him off to this secret place that is just so beautiful, and they've never been there before, and they can't get caught, and they have a little roll in the hay together, and they're just feeling very blissful. But then they also talk about some really heavy topics in this place. But then they end up getting caught by the Popo, essentially, the Gestapo. And They have certain rules in this place, just like in the Hunger Games. If you do certain things, there calls forth a whipping. So Darrow gets however many lashes he gets, and then they decide the same thing for his wife, Io. But she ends up singing this song whilst this is happening, and they say, and this is all being recorded and broadcast to wherever. And so as she's doing this, they say, all right, execute her. And so that is what happens to her. And so Darrow has to watch her be hanged, but because of the low gravity on this planet, you have to pull the ankles. And so he ends up pulling her ankles, and that's, of course, very traumatic. Who would want to do that? And he is going through it. He ends up cutting her down, which you're not allowed to do because this place has so many rules. You keep these people as a symbol. You keep them hanging. And so he pulls her down, this, that, and the other, and they decide to execute him. This part was a little bit confusing to me because I wasn't sure that, I don't know when this happened. I really don't know. It seemed like it was very vague that he was being hung or hanged. And so he ends up going to the gallows as well. But his uncle, who Darrow has never had very much respect for, he thinks he's a lush and layabout and doesn't really care about anything but doing what he has to do. His uncle actually takes him and fakes his death, buries him, but only just so that he can get out. And then Darrow is unearthed by this secret group of people who are basically the rebels. And they have a plan, and they've seen all that's happened. Io has been made a martyr, and they're like, okay, this can actually work. We can do this. I can't remember what the group is called, but let me see if I can remember. Let's see. I know that Dancer is the head of this faction. The Sons of Ares, that's right. Okay, so the Sons of Ares, which is the rebel group, they have gone in to take Darrow and bring them into their group so that he can be transformed into a gold. Because Darrow was a red, he is the lowly. They are the lowest of the low. There's reds. I think there's pinks. I wish I remembered how many groups there are. I'll need to take a little look-see for that as well. All right, it's a good thing that I purchased the second book so I know what the caste system is. All right, so you got your reds. They are the unskilled manual laborers conditioned to brutal environs. Then, one step up, you have the pinks. Unparalleled in beauty, they are bred and trained for the physical arts of pleasure. So they are the sort of prostitutes and just people that, give the pleasure. So they don't have to suffer the manual labor, but it's still, of course, not a great job. And then you have the Obsidians, a monstrous race bred only for war. We don't see a lot of those in this first book, and I'm curious to see if we'll see some more in the subsequent books following. Then you have the Browns. They're servants in homes, businesses, and social institutions. The Greys, police and military personnel. Orange is the next one up, and they provide systems support upon starships and all manner of mechanical enterprises. Then we have the Violets, the creative class of artists, musicians, and performers. Green, the programmers and developers of technology. Yellow, experts in human and natural sciences, doctors, psychologists, and scientists. Then we have blue, pilots and astronavigators bred to crew starships. And then you get to the upper echelon, which is the coppers, administrators, lawyers, and bureaucrats. The whites, which are priests and priestesses who oversee the ritual functions of society. Then you have silver, innovators, financiers, and businessmen. And then finally, the golds, the fiercely intelligent rulers of humanity. And so they have been tasked with the task of transforming Darrow from a red into a gold so that he can enter into this institute to basically fool everybody and become the top dog and bring down these tiers of society. And Darrow is like, sure, I have nothing left to live for. So he decides to undergo all of the things that entail. Because they have taken him, I forgot about this part, they have taken him up out of the trenches of Mars and up to where he thinks has not been terraformed. Because, of course, they've been told that, Mars is not habitable, there's no air, it's not possible, it's just red dust. But, of course, they've been lying to them to keep them, docile. Because if they did know, there would be an uprising for sure. So Mars was terraformed years ago, and they brought everyone from Earth over, and they're chilling up there. So he goes up there and sees all of this stuff, like all of the hovercrafts and all of the technology they have, and he's like, yo, let me at him. And so then he undergoes the transformation that has to be done, and this probably was my favorite part of the book, because he meets these people. He meets the was it the architect? There's some man who basically just like redoes all of his body. He has to go from the most superficial things, such as like plastic surgery, making his looks more gold-like, but then he also goes down to a molecular structure, bones and all of that, and replacing his eyes and some of his brain, I think. Everything. He has to look and like they have to test his blood. He needs to bleed gold. So this happens, and it's a big chunk of the book, and it ends up being like a whole big montage. And I love a training montage, or like a beautification montage. Those are my favorite. So that was a particularly interesting part of the book. And the people that he meets while he's there, he's working with Dancer and Harmony, and their dynamic is particularly interesting. And I hope that we get to see more of them in the sequels. I'm really intrigued by them. And so, after all of that, you still have to get accepted into the Institute. So they have faked his whole story. They've given him a different family, and he has to go take the test. He takes this test, and he meets some people along the way, people that he will, of course, see in the actual institute. And he passes his exam, but the people come over to check, basically proof check, because they're like, you only failed, you only missed one question out of like, I think 1,000, something like that. Proving that Darrow is not just your regular red. He is brash, he is brazen, but he's also smart, and he is also a cheat. And he will cheat, but he'll cheat in a smart way, which is another thing that endeared me toward Darrow. I love Darrow. I think that just should be known. I'm in a Darrow fan club, and I will read 17 more books about Darrow and what he does and his heart and how he's going to save the world. I love Darrow. And so then he ends up getting into the Institute, of course, and then we meet all of the other characters. And this Institute is, you'd think, was something that sounds like so scholarly and so refined that it would be not Hunger Games-esque. But of course it is. And so they are, basically this whole test is to see who can be the best leader, essentially. So they go into this place, and they are picked to be in these what would you call them? Factions again? I don't know. I think there's a lot of factions in this novel, but they're picked to be in these classes, let's say, and they each have their own instructor. I think his instructor is Mars, I believe. And they have other ones for Greek gods. And in these classes, they basically have to figure out how to survive in a barren wasteland and conquer all of the others. And it's basically a big game of capture the flag, which I love a game of capture the flag, let me tell you. Every time that was in a book like Divergent, that capture the flag scene, beautiful. Loved it. And they're also still reeling from the fact that the first test in this institute is you are picked by your house teacher, and then you go to sleep for a couple of hours, and then they take you from your bed, they rip you from your sleep, and they put you in a room, and you have to fight to the death. They're weeding the weak from the pack. And what's really ridiculous is that they put the weaker kids with someone who will definitely beat them. And this happens with Darrow and one of the people he meets. I think his name is Julius, maybe. I could be getting that wrong. He has been put up against him, and Julius is a kind person, I believe, but he is not a fighter. He's a lover, not a fighter. But he is the brother of Cassius, who Cassius loves his older brother. He thinks he is the best of men. And nobody knows who has been pit against whom, but Cassius wants to know. He's like, whoever killed my brother, you're going to pay. And of course, Darrow does not tell him this. And am I really going through a whole play-by-play of this book? I think I am. So basically, you meet the characters there. Like, all of our main characters are in this school. And it's basically, how will society develop if you have different personalities in charge, and who can create the best team, who can be the best leader, like I said. And Darrow learns through the course of this novel that you can't just, thrash around and go and order people and make them think that they are your slaves. You have to make them want to work for you. And so he ends up meeting all of these characters. And there's what's the word? There's all of these. The Sons of Ares did not only pick Darrow, and that's the craziest thing. When they revealed that there was another red in the mix, I think I did. I don't think I gasped audibly, but I think I did open my mouth a little bit. It was a good gotcha moment. I was like, you got me. You got me. It was so good. And then you meet Mustang, and she is amazing. I loved when we got to her portion of the novel. I was into it, but she pulled me into it because he needed something to bounce off of. Darrow did. He needed some kind of person to foil him, someone smarter than himself, who said, you're doing it, but you could do it better. He needed something like that, and he got that when he found Mustang. And I think I'm not going to spoil everything because that would be lame. We just need to let you guys. I need to let you guys really dive into the book as well, because it would be remiss of me to take that away from you guys. But let me just say that the characters are so layered, and I felt bad for all of them, even though all of these kids are gold, so they were born with a silver spoon in their mouths, but they did not have it easy by any means. And, I was there with Darrow when he starts empathizing with them, and he didn't think he ever could. He goes through a huge transformation, and I really enjoyed the end of the book where he has to make a decision about who he's going to be apprenticed to, because he, of course, does win. He wins the game. And then he decides to work with the person that was responsible for his wife's death. And that's where they leave off in this novel. And I was like, I need to know more. So I will know more, and I will tell you what I think about the next book. I really cannot wait for the next installment. And I just feel like I needed to make this review first before this, before I go into the second one. Otherwise, I won't know what I'm talking about. And I would probably conflate some things from book 1 to book 2. But yes, it was like there wasn't too much of anything. There wasn't too much romance. Like, it was just enough. It was like a sprinkle just to make you, just to have you satiated. There wasn't too much, there wasn't too much of the political nature of it, which I guess there will be more in the next books, because we're not in this Hunger Games like setting. So that's also going to be interesting to see if I still enjoy it as much as I enjoyed the first one. I am curious. And there was, what else was there not too much of? No, it was just perfect. It was great. I don't know why I didn't give it 5 stars. I think if I read it again, I probably would bump it up to 5 stars. I think I only gave it 4.5/4 because it took me 2 tries to get into it. But that's not the book's fault. That's my fault, because I'm a moody reader. Okay, so I thought I would end this off by reading a review from an author that I really enjoy, and his name is Patrick Rothfuss, and he gave it 5 stars. Also, I wanted to say that this book was published in... This book was published January 28th of 2014. So she is... What's that math? She is 9 years old? Yeah. Wow. I feel like it came out way sooner than that. I don't know why. That's crazy. Okay, I have no concept of time. But let's talk about this review that was a glowing one from Patrick Rothfuss, a fellow author. He says, I picked up Red Rising because a lot of the people at World Builders were goofy over the books, and by extension, the author Pierce Brown. Earlier this year, when I went to a convention where he was going to be in attendance, the World Builders team told me that if I didn't capture Pierce like a Pokemon and bring him back to the office with me, I shouldn't bother coming home at all. I got to hang out with Pierce there, and he was irritatingly polite, witty, and charming. That, combined with the degree of slavering fanaticism the World Builders team was showing him, convinced me that I should really give the books a try. And I wasn't disappointed. They're good. In fact, I go so far as to call them great books. I suspect a lot of people compare them to Hunger Games, but I think that's disservice to the books. Red Rising has a much deeper, richer world, more in-depth characterization, and a more complex plot. I agree with that. I do agree with that. That said, if you liked Hunger Games but you wanted more of those things, this book would probably make you happy as a pig with 6 tits. Yeah, I don't know what that means. This is in parentheses. I mean, pigs already have 6, but I'm honestly curious if people actually read these reviews of mine all the way through. So this is an experiment of sorts to see who was paying attention. End parentheses. Me, Patrick Rothfuss, I'm paying attention. He goes on to say, so yeah, good characters, good world building, good action, good book, worth your time. Okay, that was really entertaining. I love reading his reviews. Okay, so I have to agree with all the things he said. I loved The Hunger Games. It was my ish when I was a young one. And I would say that, yes, this is all those things. I will say that just because I am a female who really enjoys a good, messy love triangle, love V, and I enjoy romance a lot with the action. I will say that Hunger Games still tops this book because there's more romance. But I also was a teenager when I read that book, so I still wholeheartedly love Red Rising. And I love the action. I'm not an action girly. I'm just not. But I loved this action. It did not bore me. I was like, ooh, give me all the gruesome bits. Rip his arm off. It was great. There were some very graphic bits, though. So I will say, if you don't love that stuff, you might either want to skip through those pages or just not read this book at all if you're squeamish. So just let that be known. It is a very, very raw and a gratuitous book in those sorts of aspects, in the violence area. So be careful. Be careful. So yeah, I think that is my review of Red Rising. I'm hoping that this review went on for long enough so that you get kind of a gist of what this book entails. If you haven't read it, I know it's very popular, so, I'm not the first one to say this is a great book series. Or, no, I can't say that yet. I haven't read the sequel yet, but we'll see. So, yeah, that's my take on Red Rising. Loved it. Can't wait to read the sequel. Pierce Brown, you're amazing. And, so what am I reading now, you ask? So right now, I am doing a kind of a challenge where I read before bed. Yep, that's about it. Basically, I watch too much YouTube, whether it's informative or not, whether it's that or Jenna Marbles. It's still too much, and I need to throw a wrench into that. So I'm trying to do my best to read some book, whether it's a reread or a new one. I have lots of books to, delve into. Like I said, Golden Sun is one of them. But right now I am currently reading Gardens of the Moon. This is the book that a guy in a bookstore recommended to me. I couldn't tell if he was I couldn't tell if he worked there or not, but he didn't work there, I don't think. But I couldn't tell. He was trying to sell me something. I don't know. I picked it up. I started reading it. 129 pages in. I was like, this is so boring. I hate this so much. And then I got to page 130, excuse me. And I was like, oh my gosh, I love this book so much. So it went from being the book putting me in a slump to getting me out of the slump. And I am here for it. I don't know what's happening. There's a lot of magical stuff. It's like the guy in the bookstore said, it's like going into the 7th book in a 3-part series of 32 books. It's a lot. So, I couldn't tell you what's happening now. I don't know who the bad guys are. And all I know is I love Tattersail. And Crocus. Oh, no. And, what's his name? What is his name? Krupp. I love Krupp. He's so funny. But yes, I'm reading that book currently. I also picked up Everyone Here. Yes, Everyone Here is Lying by... Oh, also, Gardens of the Moon. I'm so sorry, you guys. Gardens of the Moon, a Malazan book, is by Stephen Erickson. And I am also reading Everyone Here is Lying by Sherry Lapina. This is her new release that came out this year. And it's about this family who the father is having an affair with a married woman in their neighborhood. And she calls it quits. And he comes home, a little sad because he was like, I kind of liked her. To find that his daughter is there. He gets mad at her. And then she disappears. And everyone's like, what happened to her? So that one has a very good start to it. So it's a very fast-paced start, and I was hooked, so I had to buy it. I had to do it. So, yes, those are the books I'm currently reading, and we will see how we go on with them. I have high hopes for Gardens of the Moon now because I am past 300 pages and showing no signs of wanting to stop. So that is the episode I have for you guys this week. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please don't hesitate to give me a like wherever you are. If this is going up on YouTube as the audio format, go ahead and give me a like there. Give me a comment. Comment if you've read Red Rising and the subsequent books, and if you enjoyed it, if you think it's worth the hype. And if you're on Apple Podcasts, go ahead and give me a 5-star review and or give me a 5-star and a review. It would really make my day. If you're on Spotify, go ahead and give me a like. And if you would like to contact me further, you can go ahead and do so at themoodyreaderpodcast@gmail.com. I will have it written out in the show notes. And yeah, you can contact me there. So I hope you guys had a great reading morning, noon, or night. And I hope you get some really good reading in, because when you're in it, it hits so different. Everyone should get a little bit of time to escape their brain. And I hope that you guys tune in next week to see what we talk about then. All right. Goodbye, everybody.